course, is create impact with your small business client by selecting the best mode of support. When should you serve as a consultant, as an advisor, as a mentor, or as a coach? So this we're going to be tackling with Sis Nomvuyo and Linda, who will then take us through this whole process. Thank you so much. And I could say so much about them, but let me just give you a little brief on who Sis Nomvuyo is. Sis Nomvuyo has been supporting businesses as a coach, as a mentor, and as an advisor for the past 5 years. And amongst others, collaborated with businesses supporting programs such as TechnoServe, the Gibbs Business School. She draws her experience in running her own media production company. For 2 decades, she has for 2 decades, and she has previous careers as an educator. So you can only imagine, not only is she just going to be talking about it, she's talking about something she's lived through and experienced. So this was going to be amazing. As well as our other speaker, Linda Dent, her organization is is Just Ask Linda. And Linda is the owner of Just Ask Linda Business Coaching, which was born out of her desire to help others to learn, grow in their work. Following her extensive experience, of course, in the banking sector, so as she was working with Standard Bank, Nedbank, and Barclays, she is active in the entrepreneurship community space, amongst others, and she is also the member of BNI South Africa. Her approach is based on understanding the unique strengths of the clients on this and in the work that she applies for them. So it's really amazing to see how these amazing women now are going to talk us through this. To kind of kick us off, we will, as usual, start us off with a poll. So Christoph, will you throw us a poll to help us now engage on this topic? At which point then Sis Nomvuyo will then come in and take us forward from there. So I hope you can all see the poll that's popped up on your laptop or on your phone, and it's really about modes of support. So those of you who are on Facebook, please feel free to also just put it in the chat. And really the question is, which applies to the way you support small business clients over the past month? So you can select more than one. So the last month, which one of these have you been using a lot? Have you been a consultant, an advisor, a mentor, a coach, a training facilitator, or a business financier? So which of these, as well as manager in a non-government business and you support programs, or manager in a non-government business support program, and another way, just add it in the chat, any other way that we haven't thought of. And that will be interesting to see. And you're not supporting small businesses, but you're here to hear something. Maybe you're becoming a partner. I don't know. Anyway, so far we have about 60% of the participants who have been sharing something. And it's quite interesting because most of us in this room so far, about 56% are advisors, between advisor and then 43 is mentors. So that's quite an interesting feedback from about 70% of the room that has responded so far. Coaches is sitting at 24%. So it'll be interesting to hear when Sis Nomvuyo unpacks and gives us the definition of, the coach and mentoring and when you use it and how it looks like in action when we are advising our clients or consulting for them. Okay, so I think we'll end it there. Hey, Christoph, about 52 people have responded. I think that's a good number at about 70%. I don't know if there's anything that's come up anywhere else. I hope the other is going to share something in the chat and let us know what the other is. Okay, so we can share the results. So we're sitting at 58% of the people in this room for the last month has been using the advising role. About, yes, and then which follows with mentorship, 42% use mentor, and then close up is consultant at 40%, and then coach is sitting at 23%. Interesting. And then training facilitator at 21%. Those are the major ones. Interesting there. What do you think, Sis Nomvuyo? You can unmute there. Oopsie.
You've got quite a broad range. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, IBASA and EPI and SEDA for inviting me to share in this, my favorite topic of how we support SMMEs. I think all of us are gathered together here with a common intent. And our intent is, how do we create impact? How do we create impact using the various modes of business support? And as we start, I want to ask you questions. Please feel free to put in the chat. I want to ask you two questions. The first question that I would like to ask you is, what is impact for you? When you say you want to create impact, what is impact? What does that mean for you as an advisor, as a mentor, as a coach, as a financier? What does creating impact when you are supporting a business, what does that mean to you? Please write in the chat. And the second question that I would like to ask you is, can you remember a time when you actually did that, when you had impact on a client that you were supporting? Can you remember a time? Because that is what I would like you to have in mind. Can you remember a time when you did that? Okay, so let us see. Jabu Matiko is saying, Abshen Jabu. And it's when the company is a successful going concern. And Kosana Shongwe is saying, impact to him means adding value and realizing maximum results. What does it mean to me? For me, impact means when my client can prosper holistically as they grow a business that is sustainable, that is lasting, and that makes a difference in the world. And when did I have that? I had that actually recently. Recently, a client came to one of my programs, one of my programs called the Live Your Purpose and Prosper program. When she came to the program, she was frustrated. She was stuck in business, and she didn't know what to do. She had a vision. She didn't know how to pursue it. And through the program, she was able to learn how to manage her emotions. She was able to have a mindset shift. And because of that, because of being able to do that, she was able to attract the grant funding that she needed. And she was able to grow her business. Now, as we speak, she's more confident. She's more determined. She's very clear about which direction her business is going. But even more importantly, is that she wanted to serve the community of Marikane. And guess what? Just recently, she has been awarded a contract to teach the community of Marikane how to do beekeeping. Isn't that great? That is impact for me. And I think we all want those results, creating a lasting business that makes a difference in the world. It must be sustainable. So the question that we have is, how do we do it? How do we do it? And how we do it, we're going to look at the various modes of support today: consulting, training, mentoring, and coaching. And consulting is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as the activity or business of giving expert advice about a particular subject. Training is defined as the activity of learning or teaching skills and knowledge needed for a particular job or activity. Mentoring is a training system under which a senior and more experienced individual is assigned to act as a counselor, a guide to a junior or a trainee. The mentor is responsible for providing support to and feedback on the individual under their charge. Coaching is partnering with the clients in a thought-provoking creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. What I find when I look at this, at these definitions, is that they are not very clear as to what actually this thing is. And as we look at them, there's something that I want us to be very much aware of. Because in practice, the lines between coaching and mentoring are very, very blurry. All of these modes, yes, all of them are designed to grow businesses. Usually the line between the others, consulting and training, it is very clear. But as soon as you go into mentoring and coaching, then the lines become very blurry. And sometimes it seems as if coaching is merely a fashionable term for a mentor. Often the terms are used interchangeably. Even the literature, if you were to go to various literature, you'll end up being very, very confused. So as I define this, let me be very, very, very clear and put emphasis on three things. One, the fact that I am speaking from the International Coaching Federation's perspective of coaching, the ICF. And it is very important to qualify that because it creates a framework as to what, a perspective that I am using. The second thing that I would like to state categorically is the fact that no one method is better than the other. All are important. It's just that they have different elements, and all of them are necessary to create the impact that we want. And the third thing is that in all the different modes, it is the relationship between you and the client that is key. There can be no impact without rapport, without mutual respect, and without trust. So that is very important. As we go forward, let us look at, let me unpack the definition of coaching a bit. Firstly, a coach is a partner. That means the relationship is a relationship of equals, based on total respect of the client's ability to find their own solutions. The coach creates a safe environment of confidentiality and trust. Through the coach's skillful questioning and feedback, the client then is able to find their own solution. It is often said that coaching is about bridging the knowing gap and the doing gap. That's how it's normally said. So what are the differences? What are the differences? So the trainer and the consultant is a subject expert. The agenda in a consultation is set by the trainer or the consultant. It is the trainer and the consultant that provides answers and solutions. The training session is structured. I mean, when you are doing a training section, like actually this webinar, there is structure, you know? The training session is structured, whereas a consulting session is often unstructured because it depends on what people are discussing. And the focus for both of them is on the subject that they are experts on. The mentor, on the other hand, is usually an older and experienced person who has the expertise in business. It's the mentor who sets the agenda. The mentor shows the client what to do and how to do it. They share experiences, they give advice. Usually, a mentoring session is unstructured, and the focus is on business goals. The coach, on the other hand, is an expert at asking questions. So the expertise in coaching is in asking questions. The agenda is set by the coachee, because the coachee, it is assumed that the coachee knows what issue they want to address. So they are the ones who bring a topic to the session. This is what I want to talk about. The coach helps the client find their own answers. So the coach does not give advice. When the coach has to give advice, he or she would ask permission from the client and say, can I give you advice? The coaching session is very structured. You know, it starts, there's a process to it. And the coach looks at the whole person, the mindset, the motives, as well as the business goals. So it is said, you know, I like this quote that says, the best mentors have best answers to your questions. Best mentors have the best answers to your questions. Best coaches have the best questions for your answers, because the best coaches ask questions. And then the question becomes, I mean, we ask questions every day. What is the difference? We ask questions every day. I mean, so what's special about these questions that coaches ask? Okay, so going forward, let's look at the questions that coaches ask. Okay, so an advising question would be a question that says, what if you did this? The coach, on the other hand, would say, what have you tried? Can you see in that, excuse me, what if you did X, Y, Z? That's an advising question. The coach would instead say, what have you tried? So that the client can bring their own answers. An advising question is, have you thought of this? A coaching question is, what options are available for you? Can you do X, Y, Z? The coaching question instead would be, what can you do? So always the answer, the question is thrown back to the client for them to question, for them to go deep inside and find answers for themselves. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from you?
Wow, thank you, Sis Nomvuyo. I think we will go into the questions a little later, just in case that Linda can will touch on the other aspects. It's amazing that you really got to discuss, the difference between consultant and training, a coach and a mentor. And we will now go a bit into Linda and then we will come together and discuss more into detail. Feel free, anyone, for your questions. Please remember to use the Q&A section to add your question there, so that as you go along, some of your questions can be answered that way. Sis Nomvuyo could also answer some of them as well, or she might even respond to them verbally once we have an opportunity on that. Thank you very much. Linda, just ask Linda. Yes, so really, I guess now you're going to delve more into okay, how do you choose your best mode of support for your client? And I'll hand it over to you to take us from there for now.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Would you like to get us started?
Just waiting for my slide. And thank you very much to Nomvuyo for that excellent presentation explaining the different modes. So I'd like to take it in a practical direction and share with you some stories and some practical times when you might employ one or other of the modes. And so we looked at it as which hat to wear when. There are multiple hats, whether you're the mentor, the advisor, the consultant, the cheerleader, and the next slide will just demonstrate that there are even more modes than Nomvuyo shared with us today. So these are some that I employ: the mentor, the advisor, the coach, the consultant, the financial guru. Sometimes with my banking background, I'm called upon a lot to talk about the numbers. The cheerleader, often it's necessary when a client is in a mind space that is not conducive to moving forward and achieving results. You have to step back. You have to give them the space, as Nomvuyo said, to feel safe before launching into the directives and their actions. A little tricky for me because I am an action-orientated kind of person. And have been throughout my entire career. So sometimes I've got to step back, understand that people have issues that are outside of our conversation. And it's important to do the check-in right at the beginning of every conversation to just make sure that you're both ready. I've put their philosopher as well. So like Aristotle or Plato or someone, you sometimes have to discuss deep issues and go into a lot of research to be able to share a different perspective which your client is looking for. So I'm going to just share with you a few typical small business problems. It's by no means an exhaustive list, but typically when you walk into a small business that exists, right, for a year, maybe 2 years, perhaps even longer, they could be unprofitable. They may have unskilled employees, or no employees in some cases, no or little financial skills. And that's something that I found to be extremely common. My youngest daughter says they just didn't teach us about that kind of financial acumen in school. So I'm sure that resonates with a lot of you. They don't have any processes. And by that, I mean written down step-by-step guides on how to do things, and how do you look through your customer journey? What happens at every step of, finding a lead, onboarding them, actually coaching or consulting or advising them, and then through to the point where they may exit the relationship. What happens in all those steps? Sometimes we're just doing it, ad hoc. In terms of, ICF, there is a structured process, clearly. In my business coaching, there wasn't always a structured process. So there are no systems, perhaps as well, you know, no automation, no quick and easy things. So the business owners doing everything themselves. The 1 minute they're on Facebook, the next minute they're doing some banking, the next minute they're taking some phone calls, the next minute they're delivering something, you know. So having some automation in your business is something that comes later. There's a reliance on one or a few large clients, a big problem where, you know, it's that R1 million, 10 million Rand deal that everybody's eyes pop open. It's a big shiny ball. You want to chase it. It turns out that if you just have that one transaction and it goes sour, you lose your business. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what happens in real life. And I've seen it happen. So having many clients or many different products and solutions actually turns into a more risk mitigation strategy. And the last one, you know, this one people forget about, right, on the daily hustle is, do you have time to enjoy your life, your family, yourself? Maybe you want to run or climb or visit some interesting places or eat good food and go out and have a leisurely afternoon. But I'm pretty certain your clients are going, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time for that. But why not? So these are some of the typical small business problems. And let's move on to an example. So these are some of the results. I saw in the chat box earlier when Nomvuyo asked about the intent and what creates the impact for you. A lot of you said it's the results, it's the profitability, it's the getting to actions, it's having that impact with client relationships, right? And becoming a sustainable business. That's the goal, or the kind of primary goal of all small business owners. So these are some of the kind of results I get from business coaching. And understand I'm coming from almost a purist business coaching perspective. Nomvuyo is more of a holistic business coach perspective, as she explained to you. So mine is very much results-driven kind of coaching. So these are some of the things we did. Maybe they resonate with you as typical challenges or typical things that you know that your client is looking for results on. So we did things like clarified the vision. Where do you want this business to be in the next year, 3 years, 10 years? What are your values? What's important to you that you need to share with your employees and that you have in common with your clients, so that you're not working with people you don't want to work with? We create break-even budgets. It's the numbers. People are scared of these numbers, but it's like absolutely imperative knowing your numbers. So things like a budget, financial projections, understanding your banking, etc. Those are things that you want to get on top of, as your clients want to get on top of. Establishing service packages and pricing. And then I'm just going to stop there for a minute, because what I want to do with this list, it's not just a list for me to read off the screen to you. It's also to demonstrate where I or you could use an actual one of those hats I was talking about, right? Which hat, mentoring, coaching, advising, consulting, cheerleading, etc., are you putting on for each of these? So back to clarifying the business vision, values, and mission. That for me is coaching. You know your business, you know what you want. I can't tell you what you want. You have a destination in mind. My questioning technique as a coach is to allow you to properly visualize that and write it down, right? Creating the break-even budget, particularly when they're not financially astute, that becomes more of a mentoring or even training exercise. It's something that I know well. I know how to do it. I'm a banker. I'm really strong on the numbers, so I can show them how to do it. It's not a case of, well, you know, what have you tried? Try and figure it out, like a coaching question. So I would show them how to do it, and I would work through them with it. So effectively, it's like training. Establishing the service packages and pricing. I can't tell you how much to charge, you know, for your business. I can ask you if you've done some research on competitors. Again, I'm not going to do the research for you necessarily. I'm asking you a question. Have you done the research in order to determine your packages and pricing? Have you experimented with the packages and pricing so that you can tweak it and change it as time goes on? And that is more the coaching style, right? Because the client knows this stuff. You just need to, as Nomvuyo says, you need, if you're going to be the best coach, you have to ask the right questions to get the right answers for them. Setting targets for revenue, expenses, owners' drawings. This is all about delivering on the results, right? It's the real return on investment. Are you measuring and monitoring and changing tactics as you need to? Well, that, it could be, in my case, it's more of a mentoring thing. It's something, again, I understand well, I have the experience, so I share with them how to do it. It's an explaining, I explain how to do it. And that's not coaching now, that's more mentoring and explaining. Monitoring the financial position every month. Well, that's something we would do together based on all of those targets and metrics that we've put together. And in that sense, I'm back to analyzing and questioning. So I've put that in there as well, which wasn't on our original list. But sometimes you're an analyst and you're having to work out a few things. It might actually be about their strengths and what is it that drives your person, because everyone's an individual, right? We're all different. And that's something I've employed in my practice, is to try and figure out what makes you different to me and what makes you different to the next client, and try to adapt my style sometimes to represent your style in the best possible way. And we get the best possible results that way. So it isn't a one size fits all process. So think about that in your engagements with your clients. So monitoring the financial position is a lot about analyzing and then asking the questions, which in a way is like coaching, right? Asking appropriate questions to guide them to make and take the decisions that are right for their business at the time. Creating employee handbooks, training manuals, videos. Those are your processes, right? Your processes and your systems and your procedures. That could be more of a consulting role, not necessarily with me. I might outsource that and ask somebody else to give you advice on how to put a training manual or a video together. And that's advising and expert advice, so consulting, more of a consulting role there. From a coach perspective, though, you might just ask the questions. Hopefully that makes sense. Analyzing success of advertising initiatives, that's about, you don't all have to use Facebook depending on the business, but you want to be able to analyze the results. So the analyst comes in here again, asking specific questions about your results. You know your results, so we want to know what you make of that, and then some guidance as to how you might look at it going forward. Renegotiating supplier pricing, that's all on you, right? I'm not going to do that for you. I'm just going to suggest that it might be something that you do, which is more of a mentoring. I might share a story there to say another client or myself, this is what I did, and therefore you might want to try the same thing. And capacity planning, if I'm the expert at that, if you're the expert at that, then train, explain, hand over, and they can take it from there. I've spent a lot of time on this slide, but I'm just about to wrap up with one or two more slides. So let's see which hat to wear when. Just a summary basically is establish that trust in the safe space. Make sure you check in with your client. I know I'm being a bit instructive here, but like I said earlier, I'm a very direct kind of coach. So, but it is important. It's something I've learned. Don't just run straight into the agenda and race through everything and say, our hour's up and let's have the action steps and see you next month. It's really, really important to do that. Check in, to care, to understand, to listen. I'm going to put big capital letters, to listen to your client. Understand where they are right now. Are they ready for this session that you're going to have from them? What do they need from you? The finding out of their strengths is something you can talk to me afterwards. Give me just ask Linda. You can see my little logo here. Just ask Linda. Just get in touch. All the details are coming up next. I'll talk to you some more about how do you find out about their strengths. You've got to establish the clear expectations right up front, but also in every session, right? What are they expecting out of this? And at the end of the session, I always ask them for their gem. A gem is the golden nuggets, the win. What really stood out for them today? That gives me such valuable feedback, but it also makes them feel like there was some value in the session, right? Get permission to change your style. I've learned this one. Like I said before, I'm very direct and very sort of autocratic at times. I've had to learn to go, is it okay for me to be that way in certain circumstances? And they say, yes, Linda, we want you to tell us what to do. And so sometimes that is appropriate, sometimes it's not. Maintain the structure, work within your framework, don't get distracted by lots of shiny bubbles. That's important to keep everybody on track. And last but not least is agreeing the action steps. So next slide, I think, is just my contact details. There you go. You can take a screenshot or find them somewhere else. But that's me. I hope that gave you some sense of the practical application of the various hats as you go through your coaching, consulting, advising, training engagements with your clients.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda. There's so much gems between what you've shared and Sis Nomvuyo also shared. And really, I would like to just welcome and thank you so much for that. Just before I go into some questions, there's one gentleman really, before I also run the one, thanks, Christoph, before I run the one last poll. But Ngosnati, I don't know if I can call you out a little bit and just share that. You said something really captured your brain, something just like went through, electrical something that Sis Nomvuyo shared. Would you like to come into and just elaborate a little bit on that before I get into asking Ujabu and reading what we've just seen that's been shared in the Q&A? Are you okay with that?
Definitely, I don't have a problem with it.
Wonderful. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well, everyone. Also to the fellow IBASA members out there. This was a very informative session. I've now got to get a free education through IBASA and can differentiate between what is consulting, what is coaching. Sisi Nomvuyo simply said a different point, which I have just registered in my mind, which will assist me whenever I'm advising my clients from the point of view of being an advisor and coaching at the same time. So I think her presentation was just spot on for me.
Amazing. So if I had to just go back to a little practical thing, recently, is there a client you were with that you were thinking, oh, I wish I could have done this? Do you want to just share that, a little thing without mentioning names?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's always the case where we interchange advisory and coaching. And I think from this exercise, I will go out there with my chest out high, knowing that I know I'm going to this client to advise, and these are the type of question that I should be asking, because sometimes we end up confusing these questions. So if I'm going out for coaching purposes, these are the type of question that will allow me to reach that coaching engagement at the end of the day. So I think it has helped me. There's no question that I will now get to ask the client, knowing that I'm getting the full benefit out of the session.
Got you. So now that slide that she shared helped a lot. Awesome.
I actually enjoyed it. If I can actually, if you can share it with the people that are present on the audience, that would be great, so that we can actually even repopulate some other questions that are aligned to the strategy that we have shared.
Siyabonga Ngosnati. Thank you. Sis Nomvuyo, you want to say anything on that note?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Nkosnati. And yes, it is true. The main difference is about how we ask those questions. So I don't think it's more the title, even, but more the how to, you know.
Mhm. Great.
Good
Thank
luck there, because that I wish you could give me feedback when you have done that.
Definitely, I will do.
Great, thanks. And you can find her on Insta on LinkedIn as well. So I'm sure she'll love to hear on there as well, if I could say so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, if anyone goes to my website, I do give free coaching sessions, you know, but short 30 minutes one. You know, you can book a session on my website. It's called a Booza. Booza, ask a coach.
That's brilliant, because someone in the chat was just sharing that they are a new business, I just remember, and would like to know where they can get coaching. So I think you've answered that, ladies. I can't see now. Find it. Yeah, so that was brilliant. You've answered someone there. Okay, on that note, I see Christoph. You have run our poll quickly so that we all know is how often when you engage with your small business client, do you explain your available modes of support? You may select one of these options. So how often do you say, okay, these are the ways we can do this. I can be an advisor, I can be a coach, I can be a mentor, I can be a trainer, consultant, and how often do we do that? So 18% in this room, so 19% in the room says always. Wow. And 27% says mostly. Oh, and sometimes is that 27%. Okay. Not much. Never. Oof, yeah. All right, so those are the results. 62% have participated in this one. So out of the 62%, about 27% of us in the room sometimes shares that only. And about 25% mostly do, and 18. So 18 plus 25, let's put that together, is quite high. It's quite an interesting result to say, okay, a lot of you do have that conversation with your client to say, okay, we're doing this and that, and we are actually going to do, these are the options, which one do you want? But then there was also a question, there's also a lot of questions in the Q&A, and I don't know if I want to give us an opportunity to talk to that, which could then probably help with what was shared there. Thank you, Christoph, for putting it together for us so that we can all see. Jabu, who would like to just share Jabu's response to Jabu? There's a lot over there. Is there a sequence relationship between training and other mode of support, example, training versus mentoring, coaching, etc.? In other words, can you mentor / coach people when they don't know what they don't know? Let's wrap that one first. This is long, so I don't know if you want to go through the whole thing, Christoph, or we do it in small bites. How do you do that? So it's interesting. They're using the word.
I prefer small bites.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyone in the room, whether it's Nomvuyo or Linda, or even Paul and my other colleagues on here who might want to say, okay, Christoph, what do you think? Go ahead.
Well, Linda and Nomvuyo, you can help me too, but I am a practicing coach, mentor, trainer, facilitator. You know, I play in all those modes, and I must confess that the biggest mistakes that I've made is to shift in modes without checking in with the client. So, you know, you start off in a coaching role and you ask questions, prompting questions, and the client starts to like you very much because you're so supportive. You're the cheerleader too, you know, sort of. And then you realize, but we're going nowhere. And without negotiating or checking in with the client, you shift mode into more of a mentoring role, to more of an advisor mode, more of an instructive role that you start to play. And guess what happens? The relationship ends. So to be clear about the way that you can support your clients is also important that they understand what it is that you're busy doing, you know, sort of. So some things you can, as Linda said, you know, you can be an expert in and provide them direct guidance in because you know about the industry. Some things people, I mean, if someone starts a business and they don't know where to go to the CIPC, there's no use for you to adopt a coaching role and say, do you know perhaps where it is that people must go to companies, you know? You just tell them there's this thing called the CIPC and here's their website address, or you use this person as a service provider to help you to register your business. You know, you don't, this coaching role, you know, that's a clear example where coaching may not be the right mode. But, you know, if someone sits with deep problems, so in terms of Jabu's question, I would say, you know, in a lot of instances, it starts off to being more directive, you know, sort of. So if people are in a situation where in that context, you know, and their contexts are different. So in one context, they may find things really difficult and new and they don't have any experience in it. So in that context, a more directive approach would be appropriate approach for you to be clear with the client too that you are taking a directive approach. But in another context, they maybe know much more than you do, you know, sort of. So they're going into the coaching role and probing questions and so on, and being the thinking partner of the client may be better. So it's not as if one client in all contexts need the one mode of support, you know, sort of. It is in the context, I think. So, but it may move from being directive, you know, sort of, which is like advising or consulting or training, to be directive and supportive, you know, sort of. You can do it this way. How can I help you to do it? Which is kind of mentoring, to be just supportive, you know, sort of. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And that's coaching, you know. So that's the way that I see it.
Thank you. Linda or Sis Nomvuyo? See, Linda, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you, Christoph. It's about being supportive in that early phase of business, because there is so much that a small business owner doesn't know. And to the point of the question, they don't know that they don't know, right? I've always thought that there are two things that you absolutely do know when you start a business, and that is what you are good at and how to manage your client relationships really well, sometimes to your detriment, right? For example, you will deliver after hours and you'll deliver one product with no extra cost because you're building the client relationship experience, and you know how to do something. You know, you qualified as an accountant, or you qualified as a hairdresser, or you qualified as an engineer. So if you you know, I'd like to just reiterate that I don't know how to be an engineer or a hairdresser or a delivery person. You know that, and that's what you're strong at. So it's really important in the beginning of the relationship to share that you understand that, and you've been very supportive, and then to ask the questions to uncover what they don't know, to uncover the challenges, to really say, is this something that you would like help with? So it's not being too directive. It's not just coming in there and throwing a whole lot of stuff at them. It's saying, would you value some assistance with this? Would you value assistance with that? And then typically in the early stages, you pick up 2 or 3 things. It's usually financial. I don't understand banking and all that goes with it. Sometimes it's about the marketing tactics that you need to employ, and sometimes it's about the people issues, right? So it's and fourthly about time. So it's about just uncovering which is the biggest issue for you, and tackle that one first, and then what's the second biggest issue, and tackle the next one, and so on and so forth. So it's not being overly directive, it's being extremely supportive in the beginning phases of that business. But absolutely, because I think the question was also about, you know, that they would set the agenda. And yes, they still set the agenda. You're just asking the right questions as a coach in order to uncover what they need help with.
Great. Thank you very much, Linda. So, Mpho, you can go ahead, and I don't know, I'll give an opportunity to Sisbongi as well, and Terence, if you want to share. Go ahead, Mpho.
Just a quick one. I think also another thing that is important is the trust, you know, because for for a person to open up and take the advice, be it from a coaching perspective or advisory perspective, there has to be that trust element built. So if one is still in the developmental stage, they're very sensitive, and how you handle that individual, one needs to be very careful, because also they are looking at you, but they don't trust you whether if they open up completely, you know, can you be trusted? Or are you going to take all my intellectual property and use it, you know, later? I've seen that. I have, you know, I've been in that position. So it's very important that you create that assurance that I'm here to assist you wherever possible, and there's a trust element that is built between you and the individual in the process, because that's the only way you can be able to either play the role of an advisor, a coach, or mentor once that trust is built.
Amazing. Trust. Thank you on that, Sis Mpho. Sis Bongi, go ahead.
Okay, my one is linked to what Mpho has just mentioned on trust, however, is on the rapport. Remember, you are a stranger to this person. You're meeting this person for the first time. How do you create the rapport between yourself and the person that you are trying to assist? Even before, you know, the trust has been created, and you knowing the person and the person knowing you better. So it's quite important, you know, to create that rapport from the very first time when you meet with the person, so that then the trust can be built, and you can now be able to share even difficult information can be shared with you as a support structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sis Bongi. I don't know if we want to go into the second half. Maybe Terence or Sis Nomvuyo or anyone else would like to talk to the second part of his question, because this is also very interesting, where he says, to what extent do we sacrifice adult learning principles such as group sharing, confidence building, when we are largely employing one-to-one delivery methods as opposed to training relevant to our SMMEs and stuff? So, I mean, that's very dear to my heart as well. Even in the, you know, the coaching or mentoring environment we have for our clients, our entrepreneurs, especially where we have a client saying, you have this group, please mentor them. You're taking them from here to there. And you also want to build some community in it, because being an entrepreneur, we all know it's lonely. And you need to have the right people also and build a network possibly. Sis Nomvuyo, you want to go, and then I'll give Terence, because I see you're unmuted already. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a very valuable question, Jabu, because it is true. I believe we need both. I mean, we need all the modes of support. There is such value in training, as he says, the sharing of experiences, the community, the feelings of safety that is created by people who you are traveling a journey with, the various ideas that come up. So, for example, in my Live Your Purpose and Prosper program, and particularly the client that I was talking about, it is because there were all of those elements. There was the training part where she could even bounce off ideas with other people and learn from other people's experiences. There was the mentoring part and the coaching part. So I think we need all of them, really. We need all of them.
Thank you, Sis Nomvuyo. Terence, you want to say anything before I see Sello, your hand is up. I'll let you in. We'll unmute you just now. Go ahead, Terence.
Yes, I first want to say thank you to the two speakers. Really informative, really good topic and well presented. The question, I think, is it's quite important that we look at the stages, and the speaker spoke about those stages. The one is create a rapport with a client. The second is when in that process you create some trust. But then I think the most important one is ask the client what they want. Don't assume anything. They have got the best thoughts for themselves. They might not have the detail, but they have the best thoughts about what they want. And once you've established what they want, you can then work out what of those modes, which hat, as Linda says, which hat you will wear. And that hat can change often, but you can choose the hat once you know what the client wants from you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Terence. Sello. Hello there. How are you? Are you still there?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, Puti. How are you?
Hi, great. I don't have much work, but I'm inspired by this session, and I really appreciate for such a very informative session.
Great.
Thank you very much.
And where do you naturally, just to get a little bit more, where do you naturally help your client? Are you one who does advising? Are you mentoring, you coaching, or are you just here to learn generally? Where are you at?
Basically, I was my membership with IBASA lapsed after I went into diesel security and construction.
Okay.
However, I realized that I'm a public speaker, a mentor, and a coach. So currently, I'm trying to pursue that. And then I wanted to say I've been trying to renew my membership. However, I don't get response. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, great. Okay, so it's great. So you're an entrepreneur who's been running stuff, and now you're thinking, hey, actually what I want is to also go into the mentoring and coaching other entrepreneurs as an entrepreneur yourself. That's amazing, Sello. Thank you. And then as far as your membership and everything, I am sure Sis Mpho will help you on that, or please do. She did share her email address in the chat, but at the end, again, we'll put it up on the screen and you can screenshot and then you can hear from her directly. Okay.
Thanks, October.
I see we have two more. Okay, this is exciting. We have Pako and Petane. Who would like to come on first? I'll see who's unmuted first, and then there you go. Please say your name, Budi. I didn't slaughter you.
Itisani is unmuted. You can talk, Itisani.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say thank you for the lovely session. For me, what I want to talk about is like, we normally do coaching and advising through based on our experience. And if you look at our country, at the world pandemic, which is happening with COVID-19, nothing ever happened before. So our experience is lagging there because what we used to normally live before the pandemic is a big challenge now. I normally advise clients on the transport industry, where like the careful become like a big challenge to them. Because if you have to leave earlier, say 3 o'clock, now suddenly you have to go for the long distance. You cannot like leave 3 o'clock. Now you have to leave 4 o'clock because of like the careful. It affecting the business. So no matter how hard you try to push, you can't push because of like this new law coming in, this day being like everything which you think it was possible for you to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone want to talk to that point?
Yeah, I'm okay to speak to that because I think mostly, you know, the situation with COVID has created a lot of fear, and with the restrictions and all of that, and as a result, most people are even unable to see possibilities. So that's the whole thing, to see alternatives, to see how else they can do things. So I think our role has been, you know, as a support system, support structure for entrepreneurs. Our role through this has become that more of a coach that does also a bit of counseling. Because in order to just get them to move out of anxiety, to a space where they can see that it is possible. There are businesses that are thriving even during this time. They are finding alternatives.
Sorry to add, but in here, Nomvuyo, but you're making a very important point, which made me think about what we as practitioners do just to keep sane during this time too, where we're dealing with all the pressures of our clients, depressing sometimes for ourselves, So I'm not sure if you or Linda or anyone else in the room perhaps have tips for us as practitioners to address that issue.
I don't know if I may answer. I'll think about the tips in a moment, but I've definitely had that experience both personally in COVID-19 times, wondering whether my business will actually survive, and it's about resilience, right? It's one of the key words for 2020-21 is resilience. It's about sitting down and saying, but I believe in me. I believe that I know what that I can do. I will get through this. I will ask for help if I need it, and I'll just keep moving forward, right? So that's just personally what I did, but also in support of the clients. I had one of my clients was a car auto detailing business that had been in business just for 2 years only, and they were doing very well. And then COVID hit last year. And of course, they had to shut down their operation for an extended period, send all the employees home, apply for TERS, get the funding. This guy, though, was determined to keep his employees on board, determined to keep going no matter what, and also determined to ensure that he had a safe working environment for both his employees and clients who brought their cars to him in the future. It's just sticking with it. And the support he asked for me continued to pay me, and I was very grateful for that. So I gave more, I just gave more of my time, more value, checked in often. And he did the same with his clients, just checking in often to see that they're okay, whether there's any help they need and so forth. This is a really tough time, guys. I mean, I get it. But after nearly 40 years in the banking industry, we've been through ups and downs economically and politically, and people lose their businesses. You want to hold on to your business, you've got to develop the grit. That's the word that we use, and you've got to be able to share care. It's a care and growth model, right? You've got to care about your clients, and you've got to help them to see through the current problem to a future that will be brighter. They've got to believe it. They've got to be committed to it, and they've got to keep going, and you must give them support. So sometimes you have to step back from the action, Linda kind of personality, which says, you must do this, and why haven't you done it? I realized that it wasn't priority. So the priorities changed, and you have to create you have to care for your client in order for them to make it through. And they did, I think we've all probably got stories of clients who've made it through better and stronger because of having the experience.
Awesome, great. Thank you very much, Linda. I think it's what you're sharing is so important. And Jabu, I see your question, and I get the feeling of the full story of in the context of who we are as South Africans, where a lot of our traders or informal traders that sometimes we help and support are not, they are at a different level of formal education. That already for mentees, for mentors, as coaches, as trainers, as advisors, we need to approach that also with a different mindset as well, because we come from a background of learning to be passive. Suddenly, when you go with a coaching mindset, suddenly you're asking questions. It's like, oh, but why are you asking me questions? No one's ever cared to ask me questions. I'm just used to being told. And yeah, I know exactly. And everyone in the space, a lot of us are like nodding. We get that. We feel you. How do we approach that? Which one do we use? And I think, Linda, your questions that you put there, is there a point where you can be with me and you'll have to use all of them. And they're not like, today we're going to coach, today we're going to mentor, but it's an hour session that will be a mix of all these things, practically speaking.
100%, 100%. There is, your agenda doesn't go, number one, I'm going to train you. I'm going to coach you. Number three, I'm going to mentor you. Absolutely not. And it's a skill you develop, right? As through training with NLP or ICF or in practice, you will develop the skill to know when to apply which of those hats, or to put on one of the hats. I know Nomvuyo probably wants to comment on it as well, because she did earlier. So you'd like to reiterate the same message.
Yeah. So fortunately, when you engage with a client as a coach, even from that contracting stage, you do inform them that there will be times where you do this. There will be times where you do this. There will be times where you do this. So even when you contracting with them. So the respect, which is what I like about coaching, the respect is that when you are going to give advice, then you then say, now I'm going to give you advice. Are you okay with that? So that means the client still understands that ultimately their destiny is in their hands. They have a choice to take it or not to take it. And that's where I want to answer Paco's question. And he says, how do you deal with early objections from customers seeking hand-holding? And that, I think that is what we're talking about. What you said, that our people are so used to being handheld, being told what to do. And I've had clients who say, no, tell me what I must do, So sometimes it becomes a difficult decision to make, even for me, to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Bye-bye. However, for those that I can build rapport with and show the benefits of taking your own, making your own decisions, because it's learning about learning. It's that thing of being able to say, even when you are not there, they'll still be able to make decisions. Yes. Because that's ultimately that's the benefit, that they learn how to learn, so that even when they're on their own, you as an advisor, as a consultant, as a mentor, even when you are not there, they now know how to find answers from themselves. And that is what we want, that independent entrepreneur who can be sustainable and last in business.
Thank you, Sis Nomvuyo. Paco, sorry, I'm sure your hand is sore. You can put it down now. Go ahead. Thank you for your patience.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time, first and foremost. To the experts on the call, thank you very much. Linda, were you once a former IBMer? Because a lot of the stuff you said came out of the conversation framework, really. A lot of the stuff I've learned in the past from training through that environment. So the first one, thank you very much, Sis Nomvuyo, for clarifying that point. I think there's three critical things I just wanted to understand, was that if you're saying that hand-holding only gets to a certain point, because of, you find that a lot of businesses today find themselves in their different journeys, and a lot of them are looking at how to use the magical word again, pivot, and see as to how then they're going to get to their growth targets or make those specific decisions, because there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of question marks around how do I make effective decisions regarding my business versus looking at a business in its organic state and saying, well, you are doing this, right? But you have space to grow in this environment, that environment, that environment. And then the second question was around the automation. This is to Christoph. Christoph, how much do you feel that the space in which businesses are operating today has a space for automation in the pre-assessment phase. So looking at a business and saying, look, within a digital form, can we not capture some of the different information in a practical way that then shortens the time to value that you are looking to get out of your customers? Because as you said, it's an hour session, it's a 30-minute session, and you want to derive as much value from that as possible. I like, another thing I like from you, Christoph, is that you have a way of encapsulating the different conversation framework and understanding as to how you navigate between being a director and someone that is engaging in a conversation with your customer. So yeah, that's my 2 cents worth. I'm looking forward to registering with IBASA, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paco. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything, but I think I should just give David an opportunity, and then maybe you can all just do a quick brief. We have to conclude, and also I have to give us, I'll be giving Sis Mpo and Sis Bong at the very end. So go ahead, David. Would you have a very quick, precise question? Are you still there, or are you good? Feel free to unmute yourself, by the way, if you're saying something. Okay, he had unmuted first time. Okay.
I think David may have stepped away because he's not unmuting.
Yes, okay. All right, sorry about that. No, I'm good, thanks. Okay, great. Thank you, David. Thank you on that. So we'll just put your hand down now. I would like to really give you like 2-minute closing remarks, starting with you, Sis Nomvuyo, Linda, and then I'll hand it over to Sis Mpo. You'll go after Linda and Sis Bongi or Putboni. Go ahead.
I think in closing, just to say thanks once again for the opportunity for all of us to share, our knowledge, and just seeing how all the modes of support, all important, how they work together, and in order to help us create the impact that we want. Yeah, thank you so much. And remember, if you need free coaching, just book a boozer on BizOil's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Linda?
I like that, the boozer.
Boozer means ask, Linda, just like you have asked. Yes.
Oh, well, I won't steal it. I'll stay with the English, the English word, right? But exactly, just ask us. Just ask either of us. We're here to share as well. So I really thank you, Christoph, for giving me the opportunity to be a panelist on this webinar. I've really enjoyed this time with you all. Love to see all the interaction in the chat box and the Q&A. It means it's a topic that really interests people. This clearly is an industry, a support industry that is growing in South Africa, and it's very exciting space to be in. It's up to all of us, including me, just to ensure that we build our skill so that we deliver the best value possible to our clients, so that they in turn the future of this beautiful country, South Africa. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you very much to our 2 speakers today and the audience for a lovely interaction. It was very interesting. We had a very interactive session, and this is why we live and breathe for this. This is why we get all this planning ahead of time to make sure that this becomes a reality for all our practitioners. And I'm grateful that it was another successful event. And one thing that I'm also thinking about is with all the discussions and the questions that propped, is that maybe in future we should look at how to disrupt ourselves as practitioners, in the midst of disruption. We should think of putting that out there, how should practitioners disrupt themselves in the midst of disruption, that will be great, because it will give us the opportunity to advise, come up with proactive, reactive approaches in the midst of everything that you're faced with. So that's one thing that we can now think of in the future. But in a nutshell, Linda and Sis Nomvuyo, thank you so much. And our brilliant audience, practitioners, thank you for being part of this informative session.
I guess, Tobeka, it's me now. It's my turn.
Correct. Thank you, ladies.
Yes. Colleagues, especially the presenters, thank you very, very much for the informative presentations that you have shared with us. We've learned quite a lot from the different modes of support that can be provided in order to assist our small businesses, and also in knowing which hat you must be wearing and when. And this also has reminded me of a course that SEDA has developed in the past, which can also be a mode of support. And Usis Nomvuyo also mentioned that sometimes you become a counselor. In the past, it's still available. The course is still available at SEDA. It's called the Small Business Counselor, which provides you with all the tools that you need as a business counselor to offer effective and quality advice and counseling to small businesses. So on that note, I would say thank you very much, and until we see each other again.
Great, thank you, Sis Bongi. Butwani, go ahead.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me also take this opportunity to thank our panelists for providing with a very informative session, and for sharing that with us and the participants as well. Also, again, the word of thanks would also go to the participants again for also being part of this and sharing their know-how. This is one way of learning from each other and learning from what they know and sharing from others. And I hope that this opportunity, I've seen, in fact, that it has provided them with the opportunity to network, because now they could know, they know who to speak to regarding what. This session is not only about sharing information, it's also serving as a platform for networking as well. Thank you a lot.
Great, thank you very much, Butwani. Thank you, everyone, and all the messages in the chat for the thank you very much. And it's pretty exciting. So our next webinar will be on the 4th of November, okay? And the topic is really about supporting small businesses in the agricultural sector. So I don't know how many of you are connected in that space or work in that space. So that's our next webinar, which will be on the 4th of November, and that will be our awesome topic. And please feel free to register as well on there, and you can always use your phone. You can use your phone and just do the snapshot for the code. What do you call these things? And then those can help scan the QR scanning. So you can QR scan that, and then you can also register onto the next webinar at nextwebinar.epi.org, as well as please go to the IBASA website, www.ibasa.org.za. Feel free to email sismumpod.md@ibasa.org.za if you have any questions or any queries. She's here, she's awesome, she's there to help at any time. And Sis Bongi, thank you for sharing that course for us. To attend at SEDA, we'll go to the website. Our colleague Christoph had shared the website earlier on, and we look forward to seeing if we can run one of those for sure. Yeah, to attend them as well. Christoph, thank you so much.
It was a great event. I hope everyone learned as much as I have. I've noted specifically that I'm not sure if it is the fact that I wear glasses like a nerd doesn't mean that I'm a nerd, Parkov. But automation, maybe that's a topic for us for the future, is how does how does that influence the way we support our clients? And it does. So I'm not sure how many of you have WhatsApp conversations with your clients. Previously we couldn't, or even Zoom calls as a way of supporting. You don't have to travel to them to have a proper conversation as a starting point. But then, of course, Darko, maybe you can guide us in what your thinking is around automation and how it influences us as practitioners, so that we can address the challenges that we're facing. It goes much further than just the way that we connect with our clients. So maybe that's a theme for us to explore for the future. But thank you very much, Rebecca, for hosting